Mankind must put an end to war. A war will put an end to mankind.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Well, I'm not drunk. I learned everything I got.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person.
So, all right, I think it's my turn to start. So, welcome to the Blind Partisan Show. And I'm Elliot, and I'm here with Jacob, and we're going to talk about money and politics.
Are we?
I guess.
Who's paying us to say that? Do we have to disclose our donors?
We don't have any donors.
No.
Yeah, so as an aside, this is parenthetical but parallel. So I mentioned before we started recording or semi-recorded that what was the name of it? The school board has, not the school board, but what do they call it? School Board Appreciation Week. So this is the Wisconsin School Board Week. October 7th through 13th, they get a whole week to appreciate our school board. And I'm sort of bothered by that for lots of reasons, but I feel like there's this I don't like the words inbreeding and incestuous, but it's like this insider group of both the politicians and the executives in the group, and it's not quite a revolving door, but there's a lot of just relationships,
Right.
that are an issue. And so when we talk about like money in politics, they get supported by the people that they give jobs to, and it just becomes this like circle. And I think that the issue that most people have when they talk about money in politics is the secrecy, like the non-disclosure, and the what they perceive anyway as unfair influence. Right? Wouldn't you agree on that?
I guess that's okay, because like people aren't mad at necessarily the cause of events; they're mad at the effects, right?
Well, they're mad at the effects if they don't like them,
Right.
which I believe is the circular issue. Like, because we've settled into this two-party system, people gravitate towards one of their hero sports team sides of every issue. And if Democrats raise money, that's okay, and if Republicans raise money, they're the Koch brothers having their unfair influence, and vice versa, right? So, like most things in American politics, if you're on one side, you think it's great, and if you're on the other side, you think it's terrible. And
Until 10
switch
years
the
later.
letters around, then
10 years later, when everything flips.
Yep.
Yeah. This issue is one I like to talk about.
Yeah.
I hate seeing money in politics.
Yeah.
I really do. And I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. We talking about great American freedom and how everyone's vote counts and all this and all that. Yet a lot of times you see this blatant corruption. And the worst part is you go, well, there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah. So, there was a great quote about, we have this perception that there's just like this flood of money just dumped into U.S. elections, right? Here it is. So the total cost of the federal elections, okay, was total cost, presidential and congressional, in 2016 was $6.4 billion.
Which is a lot.
Sounds like a lot, right? But it's smaller than almost any, even minor industry. I think it was compared to like the size of the chewing gum industry, like the annual sales of the chewing gum industry. So, when you think about that, don't you think that we as a culture should be putting as much energy and finances into our government?
Well, only if we're doing it the right way, which we're not. I
Oh,
mean,
and what
look
does
at
that
how
mean?
bad our election machines still are. Outdated,
like the
10,
physical
20
machines.
years.
Yeah. I mean, you could talk about that. Like we should have online voting and all that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that has I don't think one has to do with the other.
No, but you just said, if we're spending that much money, isn't that a good thing?
Oh, so you'd like to see the money spent on infrastructure?
Which it won't be.
Well, I mean, because it's not. This isn't a budget item in the government, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. Why do you want do you actually think that a change like in the machinery of elections would have a dramatic change of some kind?
No, but security's been a big concern, and
Has it though?
We've
really?
seen several states report that their election machines were interfered with or hacked. And pretty much every security agency in the world is saying, United States, you are at a critical red emergency point with your election machine.
I have never seen anybody say emergency, red, anything.
Code red, nuclear.
So the election machine thing, I know this is a tangent, but okay. So I think our local machines are fine.
I don't know all that much about our local machines.
don't.
I mean, I've pressed the buttons a few times, but
I hope you don't press any buttons. You should be just filling in the circles.
Well, yeah, and then they put them in the machines. They look fine, but
if you're touching the machines, I think that's the problem.
Caught again. I think we're just normal people in that regard. It's not our job to know everything about.
But I think it kind of goes back to the people like their congressman, but think all the other congressmen are corrupt. I think
that one.
I think our local election machinery is fine. I'd like to see online elections. I feel like if Amazon can, make it, trillions in sales, that I think we can securely.
I'm kind of scared of that idea because I've seen our government do online stuff, and it's never a good.
Yeah, so I always struggle with this, right?
Plus, we're losing when it comes to cybersecurity to China and Russia and other countries with.
So how do you square that? So if the government keeps screwing up, why don't you want to shrink the federal government?
Oh no! Here we go. Oh, Elliot. Come on, man.
That's its own part. All right. So, but I mean, okay. So maybe that's a debate for a different day, but okay, fine. But okay. So back to finance, everybody talks about Citizens United and, how should we get the word out about campaigns? On a local level, I feel like we don't hear enough about the candidates.
No, we don't. I mean, most people, one of the reasons Political Radar itself was created was because no one knew anything. And, especially on the local level, I'd guarantee still 10% of people here in Green Bay could name who their council person is. If you just ask them on the street, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
That might even be generous.
Right.
If you're saying average citywide, I think some districts it's higher. But if you go citywide, I think 10% is generous.
Yeah.
And that's sort of sad. So, we were having this discussion about the school board this morning, and it's not clear. There's no website. There's no information on even how to become a candidate for the Green Bay School Board. That is not a clear thing. So, in terms of the whole money machine, I don't think it's clear how to get on any ballot, especially, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes this insider money thing, which I think is the thing that people do have a problem with. It's this small group of people that pay to get their people elected. The people get elected. They keep the things under wraps so that the general person can't get involved in politics, and rinse and repeat.
And, it's not just during election time.
Right.
Lobbyists are a whole nother beast.
True. I guess lobbyists. Like lobbyists.
And you mentioned a revolving door before. There's a revolving door.
So the only way to fix that is smaller government. You know, you gotta blast that budget apart, because if the money goes away from the government, then these lobbyists, like, who cares? What do they get out of it?
Wow. I think that's crazy talk, but hey.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't see.
What do you do instead? How do you?
It seems to me right now like
how do you limit?
You're a drug manufacturer creating a new prescription, and you're like just making up, and your drug, it's shrink the federal government, and you're using it for any
No. So on a federal,
you got heartburn, shrink the federal government.
So what do you
got?
said? What's your solution then?
There is none.
That is a solution, though. If you shrink the government, you shrink their influence. You shrink.
If you shrink the government, you just make the corporations bigger.
I don't see how the two are correlated at all. How would a corporation get bigger because the government is smaller?
Less control.
Okay, so I guess that's if you're saying that the only thing we're going to cut in the government is any sort of corporate oversight.
Well, that's a good chunk of it. You know,
Really?
I mean, obviously, I'm in favor of
That's a tiny part. That's a tiny part.
I
of
think
our
you and I
federal
agree. Defense should be cut
budget. It should be cut to
drastically.
1/20th.
Yeah,
Like, we could cut it by 95%.
I think.
And we'd
we
be
should
fine.
start for those countries that we actually want to have good relations with. That we, have troops. We have troops all over Europe and whatnot. Yep. We can start pulling them out.
So, in that regard, I think that we both sort of agree with Trump on that, because one of his big things is he wants all of our NATO allies to pay their fair share.
I don't think payment's the right word for it.
But it's
for
like,
me,
if it's about world security and like being the policeman of the world, how about if some other countries start kicking in? I think that's totally.
And I know
fair.
some do.
Yeah.
And they should get recognition for that.
Sure.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Going back to our topic at hand.
Yeah. Well, you keep dodging it. You don't have any solutions.
Let's talk about the recent trend, and it started really in the 2016 election, but is especially apparent during this election.
Yeah.
Of typically Democrats, typically new Democrats, first-time runners or younger people typically, who are running for an office and pledging not to take any PAC money or corporate money or whatever their particular thing is. Do you feel that that's a good thing, a bad thing? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I think it doesn't matter because the party's still going to be influenced.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
you agree with me on that?
So absolutely. So the parties still get through their funding mechanisms, and also, what is a PAC? What is it actually?
Political Action Committee.
Yeah.
It starts reading the Wikipedia.
Yeah, and where does the money come from?
So that's the problem,
It
right?
comes from people.
Sometimes.
Okay, and where else?
So this all the book was completely rewritten with Citizens United, right? Pretty substantially. You now have a big distinction between a PAC and a super PAC, right?
Sure.
PACs, I believe. Please don't quote me on this. I'm no expert. Our usual disclaimer, right?
That we know nothing. Don't listen to us.
Right. Are limited in the amount they can pledge, or give directly to a candidate or use for advertisement. And I think the cutoff's like $5,000 or something.
I don't know what the limits are.
It might be different per election. You're going to be allowed to spend more on a Senate race than a local, city council person, right?
Super PACs cannot donate to candidates or parties. I think a PAC can, but there's a limit.
Yeah. But super PACs have the big benefits of being able to essentially pull their money from anywhere, right? They can get it from people. They can get it from other PACs. They can get it from corporations. They can get it from labor unions. They can get their money from anywhere.
Yep. Okay.
And I'm not quite sure how it works, but there are a lot of ways, whether it's legal or gray area, that they can just get as much money as they want.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
There are rules in place, though. However, those rules have been bent quite a bit, and then, when rules are bent, they become typical, right?
Yeah.
For example, the super PAC is not allowed to directly communicate about strategy with candidates. Like, it can't go, hey, we're going to run this advertisement for you about this. They can't do that. Yeah. However, there have been cases of them doing so and no punishment. And the candidates are still allowed to fundraise for those super PACs. And they're allowed to show up at their fundraising events. I believe they can't host them themselves, but they can show up at a super PAC's one. And they're like, it's government. There are thousands of asterisks, right?
Yeah.
And they can encourage people to give donations up to $5,000.
Okay. And then what do they do with that money?
The super PACs typically use it to run advertisements. Attack ads are the most common expense, is my understanding.
Okay. And what's an advertisement?
Oh, geez. A message paid for by someone sent.
So how is that different than what we are doing, you and I, right now?
I think there's motive is certainly one thing.
So you are completely a pure motive, and who gets to determine that?
I think there's a distinct difference, and the difference comes in.
What is it?
Well, first of all, we're not receiving thousands upon thousands of dollars from sketchy people.
What if we were?
Then
what's a sketchy person?
I think if we were receiving a ton of money, we'd probably have to register as some sort of PAC.
If we were receiving money, like from advertisers?
Yeah, like if
we were getting advertising money
for the express purpose of influencing an election.
So are we allowed? Should we be allowed to voice our opinions about certain political candidates?
Well, that's what Citizen United decided, right? Money is
and
a form of speech.
You're against me being able to pick up a microphone and talk about whatever.
I'm against you saying anything.
Okay, what about you? You can say nothing too?
Oh, no. That's not how it works. You see, the rules are different for you and me.
So you see what I'm saying though? Like I know that this is I think it's a party line Democrat talking point. They keep saying Citizen United, money equals speech. It kind of does. Like we couldn't do this with $0 invested.
Should corporations have political opinions?
Our show is owned by a corporation.
Yeah. Well, it's not a corporation.
An LLC, right?
It's an LLC.
That's a corporation. That's in the
name. You're splitting hairs a little bit.
Not really. MSNBC is an LLC.
Oh. Okay.
So where do you draw the line? Like, what's the difference? And this whole idea, as it should, blends right into this whole fake news thing, right? Where who gets to determine what is allowed speech and what is not allowed speech?
Well, I think one of the big problems we've had with super PACs is the lack of your favorite word, transparency.
Okay.
Right? There's been a distinct lack of knowing where this money comes from. And
what's keeping you from giving a list of all these super PACs right now and saying, we don't know where their money comes from. Don't support their candidates.
Nothing.
So do that.
But first of all, how do you know for certain a super PAC is connected to a specific candidate? You don't.
Well,
you can say, hey, this message seems similar.
Well, you're saying that they are attacking another candidate. So then say, I support this candidate because this super PAC is attacking them, and I don't know where they get their money from.
But is
What's
the
stopping
average
you from
person
doing
going
that?
to do that?
The average person doesn't even know who their city council member.
Okay, so if they see
you can't have it both ways.
There's an election right now between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, right?
That would be an interesting one. Okay.
And
George Washington is probably pretty old.
Just see, you're watching some great cat videos or something, and a video comes up and it says George Washington is a scallywag and he's a pant sniffer.
So if I go on Facebook right now and I buy an ad, I shouldn't be able to voice a political opinion in my personal ad.
Well, I think there have to be rules for that.
What is the rule? What should the rule be?
Problem.
You're writing the rule right now. What should it be?
The rule?
Yeah.
First of all, you have to register as a PAC.
So if I buy a Facebook ad.
And we need to know who's registering that PAC. If that's been a problem before.
I'm not a PAC, I'm a guy. So if I register if I have an ad on Facebook, I should have to register with my government.
If your ad is politically motivated, yeah.
What? Okay, so what ad is not politically motivated? Who gets to determine that?
Oh my gosh, Elliot.
What about the M&M ads for Chrysler, made in Detroit? You know, like they were bailed out by the government. So is that a political ad?
No.
Okay, interesting. I think it is.
Okay.
I'm politically offended by the fact that my government stole money from me.
Well, yes,
and gave it to a giant car company.
Is that Chrysler saying, "Hey guys, vote for this candidate"? Because
They're saying it's pure and American. No, it's socialist and terrible.
Wow. To be clear, I was not a fan of the bailout either.
Okay.
But I never saw it as socialist.
What is socialism? The government investing in and owning the means of production. If the government buys out a car company, yeah, it's Socialist Motors.
Well, they didn't buy them out. They gave them free money.
They gave them a giant free loan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's the most capitalistic thing I've ever heard.
So it's the degree, I guess. Okay. So it's not communist, it's socialist, as the socialists like to say. You don't understand. Socialism is about love and everybody agreeing. Communism is about mean guys being in charge.
Oh boy. All right. So, do you think there's anything we can do about PACs? And not just PACs, but money.
I already said what I think we can do. The one thing you can do is decrease the size of the federal government.
Besides your crazy idea.
That's not crazy.
I think at least
if you want to make up some of the difference, you want to be socialist, that's fine. Increase your spending in Madison and make Madison more socialist. I hear all the time from very liberal-minded people on the left, right, that the U.S. should be more like Europe. You know what? Maybe we should. Maybe we should have a very weak federal system like they do, the EU, and have most of our decision-making in the individual states like they do in Europe. If liberals are such fans of that, why don't they embrace my idea of decreasing the size of the federal government?
I think Elliot here has a agenda and needs to register as a PAC right now.
Everyone with a political opinion has an agenda.
Well, yeah. So
I think that's why this topic was picked, because I think it seems so easy. We're all so quick to judge and say, there's too much money in politics. There's billions of dollars on federal elections, and it's obviously corruption, and it's just rich people investing money. I mean, it's not true, or Democrats would never get any money, right?
I mean, they get. I think the numbers come out when you actually have numbers, because getting numbers can be a problem sometimes. Because
right, as it should be. The government shouldn't have anything to do with
super
monitoring
PACs.
that.
I think they should, for accountability's sake.
Just even having this name, a PAC, a political action committee, and a super PAC, all the rules, you know what the rules do? The rules just keep the people in power in power. It limits the ability of outsiders to get in.
So you're saying our government should just go, la, 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 can't hear
What is
you,
our government?
You're raising millions
What is
of
our
dollars.
government? What is our government?
The people chosen to represent us.
And they are
really,
and they are almost all from two parties.
Yeah.
Who love the fact that there's only two parties.
Exactly.
It'd be like if the NFL was just the Packers and the Lions,
or the NFL management.
Half of the fans would go to the Super Bowl every year. No, actually, not true. 100% would go to the Super Bowl. 50% would win, and they'd feel great for 4 years. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane.
So what do you think of lobbyists then?
Lobbyists are what do you consider to be a lobbyist?
A lobbyist, by definition, is someone paid by a corporation or other business interest to influence people already elected.
So is this a government? Is this a person on the staff of a corporation?
Perhaps it's a former.
So you don't think that a corporation should be able to pay a person to call up Congress people or Senate?
They're not just calling them up.
Okay.
They're having dinner with them and paying.
You don't think
for
they
it
should be
every
allowed
night.
to do that?
They're backdoor giving them money.
So senators should never be allowed to go to dinner with anybody.
They should have to pay for it.
Senators should have to pay for it.
Their own meal, yes.
Okay.
Because I've seen, there have been plenty of studies showing that even tiny gifts can have a serious psychological effect on a person.
Okay. So if I bring a Starbucks to Tammy Baldwin and say thank you for all you do for the kids, I'm now a corrupt lobbyist.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know why? Look at the doctors. Doctors were receiving from big pharmacies paid food. They would have lobbyists go into hospitals and bring them coffee or donuts or maybe some lunch from Subway,
Okay.
and bring that to them and say, by the way, you should really like our drug and prescribe it more, called Zaliterol.
So
And
this is
that
fascinating.
works.
So what if I don't take you to a restaurant? I take you to our corporate headquarters, and we give lunch to everybody, all of our employees, for free. So we don't have a mechanism to charge for lunch, and we get you your steak dinner that way.
Then at the very least, that should be disclosed.
Disclosed.
Yeah.
Okay. So every time you eat as a senator, you need to disclose where
Senators
the food
make
came from.
tons of money.
So
They can pay for their own food.
No. It's not about the
Yeah.
food. It's about the disclosure. You want them to disclose every place that they bought a can of soda.
Not from their own pockets. The
Okay.
point is, other
So
people
only
buying-
only the corrupt politicians are going to win that game.
Of course, 'cause that's another thing. There are loopholes in everything.
Which I go back to. Why are you against lowering the influence of these?
Oh my gosh.
I just don't understand why anybody would be against that. I honestly, unless you're for this invade Iraq nonsense, I don't understand why we need to have all of the money. And by the way, we don't even give them all the money that they spend. They spend way beyond that, like trillions of dollars more than we give them. Why does it all have to go to Washington? I don't understand that. I really, truly do not understand. You can be pro big government. Why would anybody be pro send all the money to Washington in order for it to come back here?
Is anyone pro big government? Should they be?
I just said we need to shrink the federal government, and you're like, you're crazy pants.
Because you are.
Okay.
In a lot of ways.
Okay, so separately, I'm crazy pants, but that's a good idea.
No.
Okay.
I think the two merge a little.
Okay. I just
It's not the craziest thing.
so
I've
when
ever
we
heard
talk
you say.
about money in politics, notice that people aren't really pissed off. I am, but they're not pissed off about local elections and the money spent there.
No, they're not.
Even though they're vastly more corrupt
Because they don't.
as
care.
a percentage.
I think we need to have like a political action committee that doesn't advertise anything, but its entire job is raising money to go into schools and teach kids about local government and how it's actually important.
But you understand that itself is going to be politically skewed, no matter what,
course.
because everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an implicit bias,
Yeah.
or explicit bias. I mean, we're both very biased.
All right, so we'll both go, and we can.
But
we'll just do exactly what we're doing right now. And we'll discard the
just so we're on the same page here. Only redheaded white dudes should decide what we teach our children.
Of course.
Okay.
Well, specifically if they're me, because I know what's best. Clearly.
So I don't ever expect us in these discussions to come to like
An answer. Or
an agreement, or provide any information really. But it's,
You have very low standards.
But honestly, I don't. I have a solution. No, there is no perfect solution, but I feel like decreasing the problem. You can't cure cancer, but you can shrink the tumor, right? How? Why? I just. What other solution is there? There's already a ton of oversight to the point that it's difficult for people to even run for office. They don't even know how to do it because there's all these loopholes they got.
Completely separate.
No, it's part of it.
No.
When you oversee elections,
I don't think there's
oversee
anyone
funding.
out there who says, "Man, I wish I could run for Senate, but all this money, I have no idea how it comes in." If you're running for that, you've already probably got in touch with one of the parties, or you're running independently, and you're going to do your own research on that. I think if you're
Do
dead
your
set
own,
on
do
running
your
for
own
something,
research where?
not being able to Google it and get a step-by-step instruction list has nothing to do.
Boy, I don't know. I can get a step-by-step instruction list on how to open a can of soda properly.
Yeah, and I agree with you that we need to explain.
What is my money going for if not to create transparency in our government?
It's not. That's the problem.
Like that should be
Transparency
job
is the
zero.
prime-
So you know what? Before we fix the funding mechanisms, let's fix the government. Let's make it easy and transparent for everyone to run for office. 100% of eligible voters should be running for some kind of office
Well,
all the time.
no.
We should have about 300 people running for school board.
See, the thing is, I see what you're saying, but you said 100% of people should be running for office.
Yes.
No, because I feel if someone doesn't want any part of the political process, they should have the right to not be.
Oh, I didn't say that I would force them at gunpoint. I'm saying that
Maybe you
know,
should. You're gonna be on the school board.
So right now we have far fewer than 1%. Okay, I'm just saying.
I wonder
let's get closer to 100% before we start having
what the actual percentage of people
who ever run for office
in this country who have ever or will ever run for office.
I'm sure we could get an answer for that with a quick Google. But it's small. I mean, just anecdotally, doesn't it seem like it's really small?
I mean, you're kind of biased on this question I'm asking because you know lots of people who are very politically motivated.
Yep.
But how many people do you run into on the streets who are a politician in some sort?
So who runs for office? A profile of the 2%. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that this is a 2014 article. Okay, so they did a survey, a total of 112 people out of whatever they interviewed. It was 2% of the weighted sample said they have ever run for office. So 2%.
Yeah.
So let's even say it's 5%. Like it's ridiculous. It's tiny. And 2% is higher than I would have thought.
So out of 5,600 people, 112. That seems about right. If a little high.
It seems a little high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it still gets the concept across, right?
Yeah.
Not very many people. I do think one thing we can do is increase the number of people running. But I also think part of it is even if those people are running, they're educated, and they also pledge not to take any money from anywhere ever, not a sandwich, not an anything.
Yeah.
They're still going to be biased from lobbyists and the party itself.
But see, don't you think making the job harder on lobbyists is the way to go?
Yeah.
So why would we not want to push all the power out to the local municipalities?
I think that would just move the lobbyists to a different area.
Really?
Yeah. That's
I don't
not gonna
care if there's
do
lobbyists
diddly.
in New York City. I don't care.
Okay,
Because
but
I
what
don't
if
pay
there are-
taxes there.
You know how mad Elliot would be if he found out that the school board is being supported by the Koch brothers and everyone who's on our school board right now got $10,000 from them and a sandwich?
I'd be pissed off.
Yeah.
Right.
So
What about it? Should I not be allowed to put an ad out disclosing that and saying that they're all corrupt?
if you register it and you give the proper disclosure that
Register
we have
with
a society
register with whom?
have agreed
Register
is the
with
proper
whom?
way to do so.
Who should you register with?
The government. You're telling us
Do you understand the cyclical, brain swell you're giving me? You want the government to oversee the government.
no.
You want the government to oversee the money that is received by candidates who are running to be in government.
Obviously, it's not perfect. But
That's beyond insane.
hang on.
That's like asking your kids
Your
to monitor
solution's
your drinking behavior.
Because now you're saying no one's going to monitor where the money's going. There was a case last month that went up to the Supreme Court. I don't know if you know anything about this. And the Supreme Court upheld the lower court's ruling, saying that any donation to a super PAC over $200 has to be disclosed. Right?
Okay.
If the federal government did not exist, we would not have that. And even with that, even the people championing it said, oh, and by the way, there are tons of loopholes in this.
Well, I mean, the loophole in the first place is if you're going to bring the number down that low, that's going to make it completely obfuscated. So instead of giving $20,000 to a candidate, I can split up my money into $200 chunks and have 100 of them go to a bunch of different super PACs or to the same super PAC.
Actually, you don't even need to do that. You just need a middleman. Because
Right.
if you middleman through a nonprofit organization, a 501c, currently, you do not have to disclose where that money came from.
Right. And how do you stop that? You can't. You cannot stop that unless you're going to make every of our 1 million 501c3 organizations give a detailed explanation to whom. So we're just going to bloat this bureaucracy that's overseeing all that. Like, it's unsustainable. Decrease the federal government. Decrease it.
Elliot
There is no other answer.
Elliot came here today with a big point, didn't she?
There's no other answer. There's not even any. There's no question in my mind that is the only thing that can help this. Anything else is worse than a Band-Aid. Anything else just feeds the problem.
I think we'll leave that for the people to decide.
No, you want to make them register their opinions with the Big Brother.
Okay, come on. You're sounding like a forum poster now.
All right, so get on the Facebooks, go to the Political Radar group, and please go to the Blind Partisan group, go to the YouTube. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me why we have to keep growing our federal government.
Or validate Elliot's opinion.
Tell me that you agree and what we can do about that. I'm happy to discuss this issue. I'm happy to debate anybody on it. I feel so strongly that the whole money in politics thing, it's the power. It's all about the power. It's not about the money. It's about the power. So that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Well,